mayohosko coming to you at 60 frames per second in 4K resolution. No sugar, no filler, just real whole egg, and welcome to my channel.
Either subscribe, donate, or get the fuck out.
It has been a very, very long time, but we are back with a mayohosko one-on-one hangout. You might remember that I did these types of one-on-one hangout streams a while ago. I'm actually going to go back to YouTube Studio to confirm when the last time I did a one-on-one hangout stream was, but all I know is that it was a very, very long time ago. So I'm going to put the key term hang in my YouTube studio. So yes, it has been over 1 year since I have done this type of format, but we're back, and today's guest is my friend Coolhan Luke Briggs.
Hello.
So, for those who don't know the format of these one-on-one hangouts, first we get to know the intangibles about the relationship that our guest has with Lego. Then we get on to talking more so about what they like about Lego in the middle, and then at the end we kind of do an extension of whatever the guest wants to talk about Lego. So I'm a little bit rusty at this format myself, but we're going to play it by ear, so to speak. So first of all, it seems like you're eating something right now.
Yeah, I have to apologize. Basically, long story short is I've only now had time to eat my tea. So I'm eating my supper, but it won't take me long because I'm a fast eater, just like Coolhan Luke himself.
Yeah. So who do we have in the chat? We have Burriton Bricks, who's first time here. We have Epic Honey Mustard Bozo, and we have Johnny Jean so far. And I think you might have told some of your friends that we'd be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Because of
I try to plug it as best I can, but
yeah, because of that Instagram post.
Yeah, but I think for whatever reason, Friday night, people seem to have, in the UK, people seem to have other plans.
Exactly, and I wanted to do it at this time as to not compete with one of my other friends. And so I'm just going to double check something on YouTube. But something I think is funny on the ESPN show Around the Horn is what they do when they have a new competitor on their show is they like to give the new guy an opportunity to sum up their sports life story in 30 seconds or less. So I want to try and incorporate that into my one-on-one hangouts. So Coolhan Luke, can you sum up your Lego life story in 30 seconds or less?
It helps if I'm not muted. 30 seconds or less. Okay, right, go. Loved and collected Lego essentially for 45 years. found Star Wars Lego, found my calling, but don't buy everything Star Wars. But don't buy anything else Lego there isn't Star Wars. That's about it. That was less than 30 seconds, right?
Okay, that's rather short and sweet. So I think that's a nice segue into the first lot of these questions. So when did you start collecting Lego?
Officially, I don't know about collecting in that we had Lego as kids, and my parents would never let us get rid of it. Not that we ever tried to, but they, as far as they were concerned, because it was classed as a premium toy even back then. So unlike some of your older toys that perhaps would be worn or used and kind of, they'd go to the charity shop or whatever, Lego was never that thing. And I've still got it to this day. So essentially, I started collecting from birth because there was Lego in my house. I've got Lego sets, and there were Lego sets in my house when I was a baby that are older than I am. So I think the oldest Lego instruction booklet I found, which again I've still got, I think it was from 1977 or 1978. So my parents would have bought it for my brother, I guess, when he was little. But so yeah, still got it all. Collected Lego and played with Lego, and had Lego for Christmas and birthday pretty much every year. When I was old enough to buy Lego for myself, I did save money, bought some. I think space and pirates were kind of on the main themes at that point. So I was buying little sets, sometimes saving for slightly larger sets. And I think I kind of sort of drifted away from it, fell out of love with it in terms of just playing with it all the time. Sort of 11, 12-year-old. And that was it, basically. I remember reading magazines in the mid-90s when I've always been a Star Wars fan, never stopped being a Star Wars fan, never had a dark age of a Star Wars fan. But I remember reading magazines, Star Wars magazines, when I used to collect them, or collectors Star Wars magazines in the mid-90s, and seeing mocks, or what would one day become the word mock, of Star Wars sets that people had made using Lego bricks. Before there was a Lego theme, a Star Wars Lego theme, and being quite impressed by that and thinking to myself, oh, that'd be something cool to do with my Lego one day. And then lo and behold, they brought out a Lego series of Star Wars. I bought one set when it was launched.
Please do not tell me that was the Sith Infiltrator.
No, it was
Good.
There's like Vulture Droid. It was called something else then. I think it was called like Droid Starfighter or something like that. But I bought that along with a bunch of other stuff because I was collecting like lots of different things at that point. Apart from Lego. Remember seeing it, thinking, wow, this is cool. And then and that was it. Never really touched it again then until around about the time Force Awakens was coming out, I think. My fiance had bought a small set for me off my daughter because she was too young, obviously, to go out and buy stuff for me for Father's Day, I think it was. And I really enjoyed it. It was just like a little small like battle pack. And I was like, oh, this has kind of took me back to when I was a kid playing with Lego. And this is great, getting back in touch with this again. Thought nothing of it, but obviously they'd see I'd enjoyed it. So I had a set for Christmas, slightly larger set for Christmas. And it just progressed from there. And then I kind of got back into it and thought, I'm going to start buying some sets for myself. And yeah, it just spiraled from there. I think the first full wave that I managed to grab hold of was the Rogue One wave. And that was out. Solo wave, I got all of that. Force Awakens, I bought a lot from. And then I started getting a bit fussy then. And then I started, when I pretty much had everything I wanted that was in the shops around about the time Solo was out, I started looking into secondhand market, finding things on Facebook Marketplace and buying up sets that people used sets, but well, in some cases new, but the people clearly didn't know what they had. So I was managing to pick up like a set complete with all figures for like 30 quid. That only a couple of years before had been like 50 quid in the shop. So I was lucky in that respect. Yeah, it spiraled from there. We arrive at today where I have my hand in a lot of pies. I like to do rebrickable builds. I like to do alternate builds. I like to do mocks. I do collect the sets, but I'm quite specific about what I collect. I don't buy UCS. I don't buy helmets. Um, and yeah, I think May the 4th is my splurge day for the year, where I'll go out and I'll spend at least the threshold to get all 3 GWPs. That's about it, really. That's kind of where we're at the moment.
Hello, Slurpy and Dusty. Hello, hello. So yeah, I think it goes without saying, but what is your favorite theme?
Star Wars. The only thing I've dabbled in, and I say because earlier on I did say that I've never bought any other sets. I have bought other sets for other people in the household. So my daughter was into Friends briefly, and then she moved on to Mario, and she's had a few Star Wars sets of her own. But I think she's kind of at that phase in her life where she's moving away from Lego now. Hopefully she'll come back to it. But pardon me, and my fiance Disney, Friends sets, Hocus Pocus, all that kind of thing, and some the flowers, the botanicals. So I've bought those for them as Christmas gifts, that kind of thing. So I'm buying other sets as such, but for myself, only ever bought Star Wars except for one time where I bought a Tron set, because next to Star Wars, Tron's probably my favorite sci-fi franchise movie, and I bought the Light Cycle set, which I don't know where it is now. It's packed away with all my other sets. But knowing that there's a new Tron movie coming out later this year, hoping that Star Wars, they've still got the license for Tron, that they may bring out a set or two, that I'd be interested. That may sway me from being just Star Wars. But aside from that, yeah, just Star Wars.
So I think I might have a viewpoint of what your next answer is, but what is your favorite set ever?
That was a tough one. My favorite set ever.
I know it's very hard for some people to come up with an answer. It was very hard for me to come up with an answer, which is why my answer is a process of elimination.
What would I say is my favorite set? What set have I?
It's a question that stumps a lot of people.
Yeah, because I have so many, and obviously most of them aren't built in the moment, so I might be forgetting ones that I've got. So, it's not as if my Legos are going to come to life and take me out in the night because I've forgotten about them. But I do feel like I've been caught out here because I don't think I've ever really stopped and considered which is my favorite set, because I'm thinking about like the build experience, how it looks on the shelf, what it means to me in terms of a point in time from the movie. I'm trying to think of so many different things. So the standout, I'd say, would have to probably be the Solo Millennium Falcon. The white one, because I got it at such a fantastic price. I remember enjoying the movie, even though a lot of people shun it. I think it's a fantastic movie. I watch it over and over again. Definitely in my top 5 Star Wars movies. I also managed to collect the entire wave apart from one small battle pack set from that series, which I was quite proud of. And that was when I was really into like first kind of getting back into it. So I'm going to say either the TIE Fighter or the X-Wing, the Millennium Falcon. I built the TIE Fighter relatively recently during the live streams, and I did enjoy the build. But the TIE Fighter itself isn't standout enough for me. The figures were great. It's up there on the shelf above. I don't know, you can probably see it in the camera. It's right here. But I don't know, it just didn't... People say it's the best version of a TIE Fighter. And, okay, compared to the other TIE Fighters I've built, it probably is. But it's not enough about it that's different. It's not, it doesn't, with the Millennium Falcon, it's white. It's a completely different colorway. So you could say it's your favorite for that reason. But with this one, it is essentially the same as every other one, but maybe a few slightly different building techniques. Overall, in terms of ships, though, I'm a B-wing fan. If I had to choose a wing, I would have to go for B-wing. So I did enjoy building the one version of a B-wing I've got as well, and I like looking at that because it looks cool. So yeah, but yeah, overall, I'd have to say the Solo Millennium Falcon, Kessel Run Millennium Falcon. I think the official name is.
Yeah, so I'm going to get into the chat just to see some of the stuff that was going on. So Britain Bricks thinks it's a cool intro. This guy has been asking me that question for the last 24 hours. So I'm going to say my opinion of honey mustard is that I tried it once on my Subway, thought it was all right, but I didn't need to have it again after that.
Best Subway topping sauce ever, but they've stopped doing it, at least where I live. You can't get honey mustard anymore, and I'm outraged.
And Johnny G likes you because you're eating right now. Britain started collecting Lego 2 years ago. So this is not an auto-generated voice by Dusty right now. Britain is into anything Lego. His favorite set is the classic space Galaxy Explorer from 1979. My favorite classic space set is actually the Cosmic Fleet Voyager, which I believe is from 1985. So I might have a ballpark answer. Well, no, sorry. I might have a ballpark anticipation for what is your favorite minifigure ever. Which also stumps a lot of people.
Easy though, because it's also my favorite character, one of my favorite characters, Captain Phasma, from the version of Captain Phasma that came with the headless First Order ATST.
Really?
Yeah. Love Captain Phasma. The minifigure looked amazing. I actually enjoyed that set for two reasons. One is because it came with Captain Phasma, and two is because I've built the head, a screen accurate or movie accurate head for the ATST. So I've got the full thing without the missing head now in my collection. So
really, because that's quite a strange one, because everything I hear people talking about her says that she's one of the most underwritten and lost potential characters in the Star Wars franchise.
I would agree with that, but doesn't affect the fact that the time she does spend on the screen I enjoy. I've read her book, the book that tells a backstory, which is a fantastic book. And you'll appreciate this as an Australian. It's very Mad Max. The book is, in terms of her, how she grows up, how she kind of earned her stripes as a warrior. She was effectively like a Mad Max style warrior on her home planet, which was kind of ravaged, similar to how the world is, I guess, in the Mad Max movies. But the figure, fantastic. That chrome they use. I think it was the first time we'd seen a chrome gun. But fantastic. Great set. Nice cape piece. My second is also my second favorite figure is my first favorite character from Star Wars, which is Enfys Nest from Solo. The figure is fantastic looking, but I like Enfys Nest for a couple of reasons. One is because it's a character that everybody assumed or believed was a male sort of. Turns out to be more of an anti-hero than the sort of bad guy of the movie that we originally thought that she was going to be. The fact that you find out it's actually a young girl and the reason she's fighting is like great. without kind of ramming down women, powerful women, and sort of I don't know, modern day righteous reasons, that whole thing. They kind of didn't ram that down your throat with it, but they did make it like a kind of compassionate kind of reason why she was fighting. And obviously it was a young girl. the outfit for in the movie for that character is fantastic. The weapons she uses that kind of shield, gauntlet shield piece on her wrists. But also the fact that, you know, she's called Memphis Nest, and she's in charge of she's the leader of the Cloud Riders. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, because I've said this many a time, Memphis Nest is Welsh, taken from Welsh, which actually means princess rainbow. So obviously, you know, I knew it was going to be a woman, essentially. Most people wouldn't have. But it translates essentially as Memphis Nest and the Cloud Riders, which I think is almost poetic. So that's why she's my favorite character, but also my second favorite fig.
So Slurpee says that the 2022 version of the Galaxy Explorer is his favorite, and he's throwing around some figures like the classic red and white spaceman, the Stormtrooper, or the classic Scout Trooper, and hello, never too old for Lego. Hello, 24. We are doing a hangout, a one-on-one hangout with my friend Coolhan Luke Bricks. Britton Bricks says his favorite figure has to be the red or white classic spaceman, because so for those who don't know, when they came out with the classic space theme in 78, originally they only had the red and the white astronauts. Then in 1980 they came out with the blue one. I think it was 1981 they came out with the yellow one, and then in 1984, and this is why it's more expensive than others, because it was only on shelves for 3 years. They came out with the black version, which is why it normally sells for 4 to 5 times as much as the other 4 colors. So I'm probably... Oh, and also howdy to General Tron Bricks. So I think your answer will probably be after the year 1998. But what is your favorite year for Lego?
2018.
2018. Is that because of the Han Solo sets?
The Solo Wave, yeah.
Yeah.
Pinnacle, absolute pinnacle. And I believe there was still a few Rogue One sets on shelves at that point as well. From sort of 2 years prior, well, a year and a half prior, because it came out at Christmas, and where Solo was the only one of the prequel sort of era that came out closer to the middle of the year. So at that point, I was going to shops and seeing the new Solo Wave, some Rogue One sets, and other sort of prequel sets, which I probably wasn't as interested in, but still. It was a great time for shopping for Lego.
Yeah, because I remember 2018, because 2018 was a more pivotal year for the Lego community than what we realize, or than what some people these days realize. Because on YouTube, 2018 was the year for Adpocalypse. For the Star Wars collectors, that was the year of the Solo movie sets. It was the 60th anniversary of the patent for the standard brick we know today, which is why we got that awesome 60th anniversary gift with purchase, which included the original Galaxy Explorer that Britton and Slurpee talked about. And General says, oddly enough, my favorite year was 1999. I think that's the first person I've ever seen whose favorite year was 1999. But if you like classic Star Wars, then that was the year.
2018, just to go back, also was quite a good. Well, it was quite an interesting time in my life because that was the year that I just changed jobs, and I had the same job since I left school for 20 years, and I progressed from weekend staff to a senior store manager, where I was kind of. I won't go off the subject, but the long story the short is I left that job. And it was quite heartbreaking to do after 20 years with the same business. And I found a new job, which was more suitable to me at that time. And that was in 2018. Well, it was actually at the end of 2017, but 2018 was that first full year living in the new place where we'd moved to with the new job. Obviously, great Lego sets out. I found my footing with Lego and things like that. And it was like, yeah, so that year overall was just, like a milestone year or a standout year for me in all aspects of my life. So, yeah.
Hello, George Cunningham. Britain says my favorite era is 1970, 1980. 70s had the classic Legoland vehicles with the iconic 1x4 embossed headlight and all front grille brick again. Very nostalgic. You know what? When I went to Bricktastic, I bought a vehicle from 1970 that has that chrome embroidered grille brick that you're talking about. They don't do a lot of chrome stuff these days, but when Star Wars came out in 1999, chrome Lego bricks was all the rage. And I don't think there's a better example of chrome than the 2002 Naboo Starfighter, which repurposed one of the drill pieces from Lego Rock Raiders for its engine pod or something. And Britain says I would have loved to go to Bricktastic in Manchester. It's a yearly event at Britain. General says if I was to call a favorite era about the mid 80s to the mid 90s, I feel the exact same way, General. Had the overall best classics come out. I think we're on the same page there, General, because my favorite year range for Lego has to be 1987 to 1994. So we're on the same page with that. Exactly. Don't forget to hit that like button, everyone, because if people stop hitting that like button, then that tells YouTube that people aren't interested in my stuff anymore, which means they stop promoting it, which means the channel dies. Anyway, let's get away from that. So
Deep.
Yeah, so we've gone over some of the intangible answers. But we're going to get back into the collecting side of Lego now. So do you have any particular memories of building specific sets or a certain theme from your childhood?
Yes. So castle in particular.
Yes.
And because we had one of the castles, one of the first sets, what we would regard as a large set. But for me, it was because the way, you'd have a bag, maybe two bags with all the pieces in. And I still connect to that now. So when I buy a new set, regardless of its size, and this includes the biggest set I've ever bought in Star Wars or I've ever owned in Star Wars, which is the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Which version? The MBS version or just one of the minifig scale versions?
The Master Builder series. So
Yeah,
that's the largest set I've ever owned. Full stop. But also, obviously, the largest Star Wars Lego set I've ever owned. But I empty out all the bags. So I always empty out all the bags. I don't do this one bag per instruction. Nah, can't do it. Can't connect to it. I did try it for the first couple of times when I built. And it just felt like I was cheating. So from then on, no matter the size of the set, and particularly, I don't really have much of a choice when it's used sets or sets that I've pre-built and taken apart and want to build again. But that's what connects to me, is that we used to have all this Lego, and I don't ever remember, for whatever reason, opening up a set and building it for the first time. I remember rebuilding sets a lot because, I mean, it was different then anyway. You know, you'd have a tray, you'd have a bunch of bags, maybe 1 or 2 bags. You'd empty them all out into the tray, and then you just build. But after they were taken apart, they'd go into this big bin of parts. So in that bin was probably, I don't know, 30 sets at one point, when I was about maybe 10, say. So every time you wanted to build something, you'd have to dig through all of the pieces, and that was just like my favorite part. I would almost finish building it. Say, for example, I'm like, right, I want to rebuild the castle. I'd be digging through, finding all the parts, getting everything together. Once it was built, I don't ever remember really playing with it. I have no memories of playing with the Lego. I remember building it, and that's it. We never displayed it. So that's probably what's affected the way I collect now, because I don't really display my sets. I always empty out all the bags, regardless of whether it's new or used, and open up and build, you know, from scratch kind of thing. I don't display or do anything with them necessarily, and sometimes I'll take them apart shortly after they've been built, because for me it's literally the building that I enjoy. And obviously anything connected to building, so building my own, like mocks, for example, doing alternate builds, doing other people's mocks, if you like. So that's kind of, you know, so in terms of memories, my main memory of a set is that castle set, but always building it from a huge bin of parts and trying to find all those pieces. But yeah, it's a great set. And there was also a fire station as well. And the bit I liked about the fire station was the kind of, you don't really see those parts anymore, but the kind of the sort of like curtain concertina type thing that comes down.
Garage door bricks.
Yeah, so there was particular bricks that had like indentations going through them, and then one that went right across the length of the brick, so that as you pulled it up, it went up and over. You pull out your 2 vehicles and you slide it back down. And I just used to play with that so much. That was fantastic. That was a core memory of Lego for me as a kid. But also going to other people's houses and seeing their Lego and being like, because obviously nowadays, even as someone who only collects Star Wars, you know, you're aware of what sets are out there. I'm very rarely surprised about sets, either because I see it on social media or because I see them in shops. But I remember like having my sets and the sets we had at home, and then going to other people's houses and seeing sets that I didn't even know existed. Because obviously there was no social media. You couldn't go to the shops and see a full range. There was no Lego stores then. So it was just whatever your shop tended to have, or you were lucky to have. So I remember going over my cousin's house, and he had like a load of Robin Hood sets, or whatever they were, like, you know, woodland men, or whatever they're called. And I'm like, oh, I've never even seen any of these, and seeing new pieces that I've not seen before, and new minifigures. And I remember being like, really like, wow, like I've seen mine and playing with mine so many times, and seeing these ones felt like new. Like I don't want any of my sets. I want these sets. But then he was the same when he came over to mine, because he was like, oh, you've got like a fire station. I didn't even know there was a fire station, you know, that kind of thing. So that was a little bit strange, because that is almost non-existent now. Maybe for younger children, I guess, who aren't aware of the full range of this stuff. But yeah, for me to see a set that I didn't know existed, like, almost never happens.
So by the Robin Hood type people, are you talking about the Forestmen from 1987 to 1990?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, Forestmen. Yeah, I knew it was something like that. I never owned any. The only thing we had in common was the pirates. So we had the pirates.
Which first came out in 1989.
Yeah, so we had some of the pirate sets, some of the smaller ones, and I don't think we ever had a pirate ship, but we had some of the like island sets and things like that.
Oh, the Islanders from 1994. You know what? My only claim to fame of owning a pirate ship was the island Catamaran from the Islanders theme.
Right. No, I meant like a literal island, like a pirate. It was a pirate's theme, but it was an island.
So, well, there's lots of islands there. There was the Saber Island. There was the Forbidden Island. There was the Rock Island Refuge.
No idea which was which. But I remember going over to his house, and he had like ships, but they were like bluecoats type characters, and I was like, "What's these?" And these are the guys apparently who fought against the pirates. But I never owned any of those. We just had the pirates, and then he was the same again when he came over to ours. Like, so he had the kind of consular ships or whatever they were, with these guys with the, I don't know, I think it was a white and blue type flag, and they had these like kind of tall black helmets with backpacks, and it was almost like they were kind of French. They looked like French foreign legions.
Because the blue coats were based on the French, the French Navy. Let's get into some of these because some people have come in. Yo, Cliff. We actually have a stinger for when Cliff comes in here. So let me go find it so we can play it.
Mayo is frozen on the stream. That is so hilarious. Look at him. Everybody's talking. He's frozen. Super focus, Mayo. Super focus. Look at him. Yep. If you move, you gotta give us Lego.
And we also have Zissou Sultan Force, of who we also have a stinger for.
Let's just try some of those sets.
Yeah, the Paradisa theme from 1992 to 1997.
Wow.
And then Britain asks you, what are you currently building, or what was the last set you made? The last set I made was the Ghast. That was the free Lego Minecraft magazine.
Ooh, so remind me, what did he ask? What's the latest build?
Yeah, or the set that you're building right now.
Well, the answer is kind of both. So the set that I'm building at the moment is I'm in the process of, because I've been building on live stream, so I did part 1. I need to do part 2 at some point. I'm building an alternate of the Bad Batch shuttle, which is a Arc 170. So I can't remember whose creation it is, but it's from Rebrickable, and yeah, it's an Arc 170 built from the parts of the Bad Batch shuttle. The other one I did, so I set, because I haven't finished that, I guess the last build I did is this one. Give me a sec.
Britain is also a Rebrickable TOC builder. By the way, if you don't know, TOC is an acronym for their own creation.
So I built this, like little Stinger Starfighter. Got expandable wings that go out. And some jet propulsion on the back. Yeah, cockpit comes down. Got some nice play features. And this is what I built using. So this doesn't actually exist as a TOC, because that's the TOC that I was following on Rebrickable was for the blue and white version of Poe's X-Wing, but I don't own that. I only own the orange and black version of Poe's X-Wing. So I used the parts and tried to follow the instructions as best I can using these parts instead. And I hit a few snags along the way where obviously the parts were very different. As an example, you can see these parts stick up a little bit, which I think adds character. But the if I used the set that I should have used, then they wouldn't have, because they are slightly shorter. So like 2 studs shorter. So, but I think it adds like, you know, a bit of character. So I was happy with that. But there's other areas where I'm like, right, that's not going to work because I haven't got the right parts. And I kind of worked a bit of a go round, and therefore it doesn't actually look like, especially cosmetically on the external parts, it doesn't look exactly the same as the mock I was building, not just because of the color. But yeah, that's the last thing I built. I haven't actually built a set for quite a while. Last 4 or 5 I've built have been Tox. So
Hello, Brick by Brick together. We do have a stinger for the PPP. Not sure if you remember it, Johnny, but let's play it. PPP.
The wind.
okay.
Yep. We have a lot of random stuff like that around here. Let's get into more of these comments. So Britain says, I have the big chrome drill element from the Rock Raiders sets, don't have all the parts for it. If you still have that piece, you could try piece together the 2002 Naboo Starfighter. What are other people saying? Yeah, so Britain is also a rebrickable builder. And Zissou is our resident joke writer around here. Those nasty Lego firemen were always trying to suppress the peaceful fires.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't start the fire. It was always burning since the world's been turning. General says, I got that, but also got the Imperial Armada ship. So the Imperial Armada were based on the Spanish conquistadors that was sold from 1996 to 1997. And Britain has a 1970 set of a car garage that has the automatic doors. The doors are held back by a push-down plate, and the doors had a spring built into the hinge, which is a predecessor to the garage doors you were talking about, where they are inserted into bricks that have those slots in them. They decided to go with the garage doors that have the slots in them that you were talking about because they're easier to produce, and they're still in sets to this day.
Oh, right, okay. How do you get? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Have you got the premium StreamYard?
No.
So how did you get the background picture?
I have no idea. I uploaded it to StreamYard when I was paying for the premium for December of, I think, 2022, and I don't know what's happened since then. But I logged in to the backstage today, and it was there. So I'm not going to get rid of it.
Yeah, that's yeah. That's what I want to do with our streams. We can't do it because obviously I don't really want to pay for the premium. But this is the chance that I can do stuff, pay the premium, do some things, then stop paying it, or obviously finish it after a month, and that stuff stays in place. Then I might be willing to do it, but there's no guarantee it will, and then it would be for nothing. So,
yes. So going back to what you were saying earlier. The way that you grew up with the big castles, was that the King's Castle from 1984?
All I know is that it had a prison.
Okay, yeah, because that was the first castle set to have a dungeon in it.
Yeah, it might have been that one. I can't really remember. To me, it was just the castle. I didn't even realize till many, many years later there were multiple versions of castles.
Yeah.
As far as I was concerned, I had the one and only Lego castle. So,
well, because the grey castle era was from 1984 to 1992, and for a while that was the castle of Lego Castle, really up until the Black Monarch Castle 5 years later. Because the great thing about those sets you were talking about is they had the Technic connections so that you could connect them all together. Hello,
Yeah.
Pandemonious Panda. So I'm not sure if you ever did the play pattern of connecting them all together, or you just did whatever you wanted with them.
Well, we only had the one, but yeah, you could turn it like you could have it as an open, like a wall, like
Yeah, they also had the hinge functions.
Yeah, or I could have it like round and it was like a square, or any kind of variation in between. But yeah, it was like I said, I don't ever remember. It had a pulley. You'd wind the thing for the drawbridge. I know there was some black and red elements, but the majority of it was, the old grey and the old light grey, or old dark grey and old light grey. But yeah, I mean, I've still got the parts, or the majority of the parts to it still. But the instructions have seen better days, but I've still got them too.
Yeah, and those people you were talking about who made Star Wars box before we even coined the term mock, before the Star Wars theme came out, I know that a lot of people used pieces from their castle sets to build those early Star Wars mocks, because Castle Grey, Star Wars Grey.
Yeah. But in fact, I think the main thing that I remember seeing someone build is an X-Wing and being like, wow. But it was literally brick built.
Yes.
Because obviously, I don't think they would have had the ability to use plates and stuff. I mean, even the sets that did come out a few years later were kind of very basic. But it was like, I remember it being brick built. So it was like even the wings were kind of brick built. So it was relatively big as well and probably heavy. It kind of reminded me a little bit of have you seen these kind of Pokemon and Mario sort of giant Lego builds?
Yes, by people like Wicker Builds. They've been at Brick World Chicago a lot.
So yes, it reminded me a little bit of, imagine an X-Wing version of that, which is quite like heavy and chunky, and there wouldn't have been any interior or any cockpit. It would have just literally been like a big solid lump of bricks, shaped like an X-Wing. But I mean, I could tell what it was, so I guess it worked. I need to dig that magazine out, because I had it out at one point. I showed it on a couple of streams, and no idea where it is right now.
Yeah, the reason why the castle sets from 1984 to 1992 is called the Grey Castle era is because the original wave of castle sets from 1978 to 1983 was the Yellow Castle era, which...
Yes, weird choice, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I know why they did that, is because one, there wasn't a lot of parts made in grey back then, and two, the argument was that Lego didn't want to encourage people to make stuff based on war, which they keep on moving the goalpost, because 6 years later they gave us a grey castle. What did people start building with pieces from those castles? Star War stuff.
Yeah.
If you really want to get a pedantic about that. And I know that some people have voiced their opinion, and as Zissou sieged many castles, they were the good days. The 80s, in my opinion, was the best decade for Lego in terms of the set design and the creativity and the advertising. General says, by the time I ever got other castle sets to add on, I'd already disassembled and made my own big castle, so I'd just part out the new and add to my big castles. Johnny is on multiple accounts right now. R2D2 should be A tier. Every few years I tear it down and redo the big castle. That sounds like me with some of the sets I grew up with in the 2000s. Astromech tier. So Zissou is I guess he's doing some castle stuff because he likes Zelda. A general says, my first video on here shows my last big castle build, sort of dual towers. Hello, Alexandria. And yeah, the multicolor was a nightmare. So some people might not know, but you do your own regularly scheduled weekly streams.
Yes. So we do a show called, which started out just me chatting, but it was always supposed to be a panel show. It's called Cool Hang Luke. So like hangout, come and hang out with Cool Han. So we've been going regularly since the start. We've never missed an episode. We might have been late a few times, but we've never missed an episode. We started fortnightly, but then once obviously things picked up and there was demand for us to go regular, we started doing weekly shows just around about Christmas time. I think I would say December. So we've been going now for about July 7-8 months, and yeah, so you know the format of the show generally is kind of still in that phase of kind of, you know, organically sort of progressing and changing, and things are kind of falling into place and other things are kind of falling out of place. But essentially there's a panel of us, 3 main hosts, and then we have some backup hosts as well, and we just kind of shoot the breeze a little bit. We try not to be too reviews, news, leaks, rumors, ratings based, because there's also already so much out there, both in short form and long form and live form, that, you know, it's not really about competing as much as it is, you know, I don't want to be a dead horse. But we do generally have a kind of, you know, more of like an open forum. Imagine, you know, going sort of down the pub and meeting up with your friends and being able to talk a little bit about work, talk a little bit about serious things, but generally loose conversation, nothing too serious, and just have a laugh. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, that sounds like it's your kind of thing. It's generally all Lego. I'd say it was kind of 90% Lego. We do talk other Star Wars, and we do talk other collections, and sometimes we might talk about what our favorite fruit is, favorite cereal, and random topics like that, if we segue. But generally it is mostly Star Wars. Generally it's mostly Lego, and I would say primarily Star Wars, but we do talk about other themes and other things within the Lego community. As an example, this Sunday, we've got a young fella on as our guest called T-Mog, a.k.a. the Master of Gaming. And T-Mog is going to be helping us to discuss, because it's his area of expertise, Star Wars and Lego-based video games, console and PC-based. So, you know, so we are delving out there a little bit. So it might not be all the Star Wars Lego games, but it will be other Lego games that are kind of notable. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So, you know, it's subcategories. But yeah, if you want to just come along, anybody here likes the idea of coming along to a show where people are just kind of having a bit of a laugh, not taking themselves too seriously, talking all things Lego, maybe covering over a few topical incidences that are kind of going on there out in the world, i.e. Pokemon, that kind of thing. But almost kind of using it as an opportunity to kind of have a laugh about it, joke about it, or take the mick, rather than kind of, you know, try and do a constructive review. Then that's the kind of thing our show is. It's almost like we want to be the. There is a phrase that we came up with recently, but we're the kind of comedic, not comedic. It escapes me, but it's like the you know, escapism a little bit from serious Lego talk. But yeah, every week on a Sunday, 7 p.m. UK time, which translates to, at the moment, 4 p.m. Is it 5 p.m. US time on Eastern?
I think that would be a 2 p.m. Eastern.
2 p.m. Eastern normally, but at the moment, so this Sunday's one, it'll be 3 p.m. because obviously our clocks still haven't gone forward here in the UK. But yeah, over on my YouTube channel, Cool Hand Luke, Bricks, and Yeah, and it's definitely a round table. I think I'll probably do more talking than anybody else because it's just my forte. But it's a round table effect that is in a kind of hierarchical structure. So, the other guys, the other co-hosts will take the lead. And in particular, this episode we've got coming up, Slurpee, aka Matthew McGuigan, aka the stop motion maestro, is going to be
here in the chat earlier.
Yeah, he's going to be heading up this show, I guess, or taking the helm if there were such a thing on this show, because he has got a lot more experience with Star Wars and or Lego-based computer games than I have, because mine is almost zero.
And I'm totally biased, but the best episode of Cool Hang Luke Bricks was when you got me on to talk about the Bricktastic convention. Totally biased there.
Yeah, the views, the likes have all been pretty good, consistent right across the board. But yeah, that was no exception. So yeah.
Yeah, I got into a spat with some people on Instagram earlier because of that stream.
Really?
Yeah, because people keep on begging me to say why my name is my name, even though I've said it a billion times. People just don't want to do the legwork. So I spent 5 minutes writing an Apple note to tell the story, and I'm thinking about posting it as a picture to my close friends account on Instagram, just so people will stop bombarding me with frequently asked questions. Anyway, what are people saying in the chat? Because the chat's going by rather quickly right now. Yeah. So the first bunch of castle sets were all yellow. So what were other people saying? Because it's gone very quickly. Britain has a question for all of us. What do you think about the Lego group making specific parts to get the shapes they want and also fill the gaps instead of being creative with the parts we already have like we used to? I'm in support of them making more specialized pieces, which is why I have lauded the Speed Champions theme, creating so many curved elements.
Yeah, I think obviously if they want to take the things forward, especially when they're remaking things, so let's just use Star Wars for argument's sake. If essentially they could make completely different sets all the time, but unfortunately the way the culture works is that they do need to play the hits as well. So they do need to be re-releasing an X-Wing, and if that X-Wing needs to be set apart from the previous versions for those who are collecting. And obviously, if they want to move with the times, they can't rely solely on just improved building techniques, because that'll only get you so far. And also, probably won't have changed that much over a couple of years for something like an X-Wing, which relatively looks the same. So therefore, they do have to kind of come up with some new elements to be able to do things that otherwise would look either a bit naff or weren't possible before. So. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you look at the Lego sets now and think, well, how much more detailed can they be? There's no way they can move forward with this without obviously making it more enormous. But yeah, somehow, the next version comes out and looks, more detailed or more intricate and better, arguably better than the previous version. It's just like technology, when I first saw that snake going around the screen of a Nokia 3330 or 3310 or whatever it was, and thinking, wow, like we've got phones now where you can play games on them. I don't know how technology is able to move any further than this. This is so futuristic. This like we've literally we've come to the pinnacle of the technological era here, that you can play a computer game on your phone. And now look where we are. And it's not even, you're talking maybe 20, 25 years ago. And it's just like, well, but at the time it was like, I remember watching, what movie did I watch? I watched a movie called Final Fantasy. And they used kind of characters. It was a movie, and they used characters based on how the character looked. So like Sandra Bullock, for example, or whatever. And I remember seeing that in the cinema and thinking, wow, in terms of graphics and special effects, there's no way they can, without physically using the actor, there's no way that they can get those graphics to look any better than they are. We're there. We're at the top of the tree. Now I go back and look at it, and it just looks like a bunch of piece of shit pixels. Like, and I'm just like, what? It's crazy how like we can. So I guess to try and bring it back around, you do look at a Lego set and you think to yourself, right, this X-Wing can get, within reality any better. And yeah, they do it, but they have to rely on changing out some pieces. So I'm all for it. Same as Mayo. I think it's interesting when they come up with new elements.
What's up? What's up? Cheap ass boy. Our hesitant co-host from Hauling and Bowling right there, the longest running Lego podcast on YouTube. I think some other people have voiced their opinions about that question by Britain. So let me just scroll to them. So General says, well, I do like specialized parts because many times, even though even those can have more than one use, but they also free up the parts used for them, so it's a win-win.
Sounds about right.
Like the old 6 shooters from Wild West, I saw those can be used as hot rod engine outtakes.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've seen stuff like that before as well. It's cool.
Yeah, because I think there is a trick to using something that you don't 100% know how you can use outside its intended purpose. I think there's a challenge to actually use it into something to look like something that's totally different. Because I've actually seen some train builders take the front ends of the 8 wide aeroplane pieces and use them for their 8-stud wide passenger trains. Like they take the nose cone of an aeroplane and they'd make it as the aerodynamic front of a high speed train, for example. I do like to sleep. I'd like to get my beauty sleep. I'm not going to be doing a 24-hour stream for a while now.
I need to. I think I might have a go at doing one. Somebody gave me the idea to do one to try and reach a subscriber goal. So maybe do like, I don't know, 1,000 subs stream. So you just keep going until you get there. Or not keep going, but But I don't really know about that. I mean, I'm struggling now, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Oh, past midnight for me, which is not very often I stay up that late. But yeah, I'm still locked in at the moment.
Yeah, so many wackadoodle names like the names on screen right now, and some other people in chat as well. Britain says, yeah, technology is moving too fast for me. I remember the old black and white TV had three channels. No such thing as mobile phones or the internet. Also, hello, Skywin. Are they? Well, you might want to open up more tabs on your computer then. Iron Builder Contest pits 2 builders against each other to make as many builds as they can using as many odd parts in different ways. I grew up in the tail end of the VHS era. Yeah, so I mean, we're going to get away from technology, but I did see someone asking, would you ever want to see lights and sounds bricks in Star Wars sets? I can't remember where it was in the chat. Lights and sounds bricks in Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they ever will do it, but the problem is with it is that if they put light and sound bricks in Star Wars again, well, they've had light bricks in there before with the lightsabers. But with the sound brick, I think the problem is you do for one, you got to do for all. So let's just say, for example, they put it in an X-wing, then the people would be saying, well, why haven't they done it with the Falcon, and why haven't they done it? What?
Oh,
So
yeah.
they've got to kind of do them all. So I think they set a precedent when they do start doing things like that, especially for something like Star Wars, where the sound is quite, it's not just a fire engine sound, which everybody knows, I guess, but it could. I don't know. The Star Wars is quite synonymous with its kind of the soundtracks and the unusual sounds, say, like a TIE fighter makes. So I don't know. I feel like they'd be making a rod for their own back if they start doing stuff like that, because where do they draw the line? Which sets are not going to have it? Which sets are? Why? How much we've got to spend for it to justify the cost of it? That kind of thing. So
Yeah, because it seems like something that Star Wars collectors would use would use as an excuse to complain about the price. Because like I was talking with some people 2 days ago, and we were talking about how there's a lot of themes that Lego has to pay the Disney license for. You got the Disney princesses. You got films that are by Walt Disney. You got the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you've got Star Wars from the galaxy far, far away. And I only ever hear Marvel and Star Wars fans talking about the Disney tax. I don't see Disney princess set collectors talking about the Disney tax. And I've said time and time again, there's an old blog post on janebricks.com where he tries to debunk the existence of the Disney tax by claiming that they spread the cost of the license rights across the different themes. And so I'm at the opinion that the only reason Lego, Marvel, and Star Wars sets are so expensive is because they know people will buy them regardless of how bad they are. And also they know that the minifigure collectors are heavily invested in those sets, which is why people can justify buying an overpriced Star Wars set, because they know it has a figure in it which will eventually be worth more than the set at retail price. Because, like, look at the stuff that's going on with that Qui-Gon Jinn right now. Look at what is materialized over the last 22 years with the Cloud City Boba Fett. Look at the chrome and silver versions of C-3PO and Darth Vader and stuff like that. Lego knows they can get away with charging a higher price because there will be that small but loud minutia of Star Wars fans who will justify the price with the future sales future sales projections of the set from third-party sellers in retirement.
I can still hear you because I'm keeping my headphones on. I'm just going to quickly nip and wash my hands.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, we're going to go over some of the stuff in comments. Britain Bricks says UCS sets could be the only ones with the light and sound brick that could or would make UCS stuff more appealing. And Skywind says, us, Lego Star Wars fan. Panda says he's hiding behind Darth Maul's ship. And Skywind says, I'd like to ask, how come us Lego Star Wars mech not only cost $1 more, but only come with one figure? I think that is what I just said. I think that Lego knows they can take advantage of Lego Star Wars fans. I think that is the reason why. And Skywen also says, I like to complain about Lego Star Wars. I'm a Lego Star Wars fan. And that goes back to the old adage that the biggest people who complain about Star Wars are Star Wars fans. Because, and I think as fandoms of certain movies and TV shows have evolved over time, I think we've taken that adage and we've applied it across all fandoms. So, for those who don't know, I'm a part of the Thomas the Tank Engine fandom. And by far, the biggest complainers of Thomas the Tank Engine are fans of Thomas the Tank Engine. Because for years, the adage, no one complains about Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. No one complains about Thomas more than Thomas fans. No one complains about Lego more than Lego fans. No one complains about the politics in their own country more than the people in their own country. No one complains about the price of anything they collect more than the people who also collect what they collect. It's just a snowball effect across the whole collector's market, because the collector's market is bigger than what it used to be, because the toy companies and the merchandise companies who make stuff that people want to collect know the psychology of their customers, and therefore they know they can do limited edition stuff, and they can do special edition stuff, and they can do alternate costumes of certain characters from pieces of media, and they can do rug pulls from out underneath our feet, and they can do all these little dirty tricks to get us to spend more money due to the hype train and FOMO. And I think Lego has a lot of FOMO, which is why you have day one buyers. Day one buyers exist because FOMO exists. I'm not a day one buyer, because I know that even though most sets will get sold out online and go to back order, that's just because the warehouse where your country's version of the website gets their sets from to fulfill your orders, they're just waiting for more inventory stock of that set to get sent to their warehouse, because of the supply chain of how Lego sells their sets from the factory to the distribution center to the retailers. And the reason why, if you go to lego.com and you go to Pick a Brick online, the reason why you have the best sellers and the parts that aren't the best sellers is because they allocate a certain amount of pieces as the best sellers to their warehouses and their distribution centers around the world, because they know, though, they have the data that those are the most popular pieces, so they'll send them out for order fulfillments direct from the distribution centers and the warehouse. And they know if a piece isn't popular, it's not worth the cost sending it there, so they'll just keep it in the homeland, and thus people have to wait longer for certain pieces. Which is why when people do haul videos, they complain about, well, this wasn't a bestseller, so I'll have to wait forever to get it in the mail. Anyway, I'm done stalling about that.
just to go back on what you were saying about fans, I remember seeing somewhere about somebody saying that, it was in a Lego group, but it was like talking about fans in general of Star Wars, and that, they're toxic or whatever, and that no matter what it is you're collecting with Star Wars, you always have these people who are complaining. And I beg to differ, because I was part of the Lego book community for quite a while, because I still do collect the novels, the Lego novels, the Star Wars novels and books, and that's quite a deep rabbit hole in itself. But those fans were always very respectful of what they got, the authors, even in so much as who the narrators for the audio books were, and happy to have sprayed edge limited edition covers. They were always kind of respectful and thankful and appreciative of anything that was released, and rightly so. That isn't the case anywhere else, unfortunately, with Star Wars. But I don't think it's fair to say that all Star Wars collector fans are basically a nightmare. I'm never satisfied, because, from my experience with the book community, that wasn't the case at all. And quite frankly, the opposite.
Well, I think that's because the book community, not talk about the comic book community, but the book community is a little bit more laid back because books are so chill.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
Because I think there's a difference in culture between those who read a lot of books and those who watch a lot of movies.
Yeah. It's interesting. But what else? There was something else you were talking about. Because I kept my headphones on, although you couldn't hear me. I was kind of doing a few bits around the house and listening in.
Stuff about the FOMO of collectors.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I had a really good point. I thought, right, as soon as I get back in front of the laptop, I'll mention that point, and it escapes me now. But
stuff about the Pick-a-Brick online.
Yeah, no, I can't remember. It's gone.
Does anyone know if Lego changes their Pick-a-Brick wall monthly of just as and when? I know that some stores have certain dates when they get new parts in. Other stores just order new parts on demand, depending on how much parts they can sell per month. And there's a lot of memes online attached to the Star Wars community. And also, yes, this is another thing I'll ask. What are your opinions about the helmet holes? Because Skywin doesn't like them.
I don't see the huge issue, but I think the problem is, for me, the biggest problem wasn't the holes, because obviously there was always holes. I think what he's referring to is the fact that they changed where the hole is. But yeah, what I got frustrated about is the fact that if they'd moved the hole up slightly and then gotten rid of the original nubbin where a hole was, it might not have been so bad or even noticeable. But it's the fact that they've left the original nubbin there to make the helmet accurate, but then they're happy enough to have a second hole where they prefer it to be, and therefore making the helmet inaccurate. So it's like, just get rid of the original nubbin. Don't have like two areas, one where the hole now is and one where the hole used to be. Just get rid of one. I don't really get it. If you're trying to, it's a suggestion that that's where that part should now be in terms of the accuracy of that minifigure, then there's no reason for the other one to be there, even though it's, ergonomically in the right place. I don't know. That's always kind of confused me. And not only that, but we were talking about in a previous stream when people were talking about, oh, well, this isn't accurate on the new Boba Fett figure. The foot isn't accurate, and the printing isn't this, and the way his belt is done is inaccurate. And I'm like, look, I get having an accurate figure, and I think within reason that there's nothing wrong with requesting that. But at the same time, I don't know. It just, I don't know. It just frustrates me, basically, that that's the kind of I don't know. It's hard to sort of pinpoint it, but essentially what we were saying is that, you know, I don't remember Jango Fett actually having square legs either, or having 2 huge fingers as opposed to 5 fingers and a thumb, which the Lego figure does have. So therefore, in terms of accuracy, it isn't accurate anyway. So therefore, why would we need the belt buckle to be, you know, the exact right size or whatever? It just, you know what I mean? I know there's got to be a line where, you know, it looks like a completely different figure, but as long as you can tell what it is, you're never going to get it accurate anyway. Like, nobody's asking why there aren't any sort of fingers printed on, or the minifigure hasn't got like a proper hand. Nobody's asking that about it. They accept the fact that the hand looks different. So why can't they accept the fact that some of the details on the figure aren't going to be 100% accurate?
It's similar to why no one asks, why are there no noses printed on the faces?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so yeah, going back to what your point was, the helmet holes, it doesn't really bother me because I don't really play with those figures. I don't really display those figures. And it does, although it doesn't make sense that they've left the original placement hole there, sort of, but yet filled it in. In the grand scheme of things, nobody's coming and looking at my sets and going, "Oh my god, why is that?" You know, even if somebody did, even if my parents came in and saw my Lego collection, they were like, "Oh, wait a sec, that Lego figure, which is a representation of a character from a movie, that hole isn't where it should be. It should be, you know, what is it, a millimeter down, which, you know, in real life might be." To scale it up to the actual character, it might be, you know, maybe an inch. Therefore, that figure is completely pointless and useless. I just don't get that realm of thought that it's that big a deal that the whole thing is kind of ruined. But I don't know. Each to their own. If people don't like it, then they have their reason to be. Ooh, which brings me on nicely to what I was thinking about when we were downstairs. What I was thinking about downstairs, the point I wanted to make is about how people get frustrated about something they're passionate about. And I think that's exactly the right thing they should be doing. Because if they didn't have that tenacity about what they want and what they love being the way it could be, regardless of what it is, even if it is helmet holes, for example, then that's when you've got to worry. When people just don't care enough to give feedback or don't care enough, like where people are at the moment, like where they're not even I'm not even bothering with Star Wars because it's too whatever, it's not what I want, and they're voting with their wallet. But if you're passionate about something, and I say this all the time in work when my area manager comes to the store and she's like, "Oh my god," almost like frustrated that I'm, you know, so frustrated myself about things that aren't right and that I would like to change, and but you've got to have that level of tenacity, because otherwise things don't get done. Somebody has to be chasing that up. But also, if I didn't want this company or this figure, this product to be its very best and to succeed, then I would say nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's like that frustration 99% of the time comes from a passion for the product. And I think like Ryan M&R has kind of said that from day one, probably in better terms, said it better than I could as well. But generally, it's like, don't complain that I'm complaining, because I'm complaining because I want it to be better. I mean, I'm complaining because, you know, I'm buying this product. I like this product. I love this product. I got a passion for this product, and I have the right to, as a purchaser, say that I'm not happy with it. If you don't want to listen to me complaining about it, then that's your prerogative to bugger off somewhere else. You know, so.
Yeah, and before we get on to that point by Panda, I'm going to say, yo, Joel, who is also from Wales.
Coming down, Beth.
And then so Panda eloquently says, Fandom is from passion from people who genuinely love a franchise. They will debate things that don't matter to other people except true fans. So people who call fans toxic don't understand things. Like when all those women executives of the Disney Star Wars called fans who have been watching Star Wars for 48 years toxic. People who were born and watched a franchise that is older than the very people calling those same people toxic. Fans are painted with a broad brush and shown much hatred. It would be like complaining that the BD1 figure Lego made is too tall. Who cares? Skywin says, I think the biggest problem is Lego loves to act like they are all high and mighty, but they aren't. Only the best is good enough. I think not. Panda says fans are painted with a broad brush and shown much hatred by people who don't know what they're talking about. That's why I like to call out people who don't know what they're talking about, because I know enough about certain things where if people then start talking about those certain things, and I can easily see where they're incorrect, and I'm like, bro, stop talking.
Yeah.
And Joe asks, are you going to Newport Brickfest next week?
I most certainly am. Not only am I going, but I'm going to be working or volunteering.
Oh, nice.
At the event. So I'll be there, mate. You displaying? I'm assuming you're displaying.
Panda goes on to say, there are bad actors in every aspect of life, but they are not fans. They are industry, plants, and fake fans. Britain says a couple things. Kohan Palatoy and Kanna, who made the original Star Wars figures, was never accurate. It's really funny when there was a slight paint discrepancy just because they were having a bad day is collectible. But it's the fans and collectors that make the item more valuable just because people will pay for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm all for people having their own opinions on things. I mean, that's the point of it. I just hate it when people... I get frustrated with people who fob things off as it's not that serious, it doesn't really matter. And, you know, in some cases, like I said, the old helmet whole thing doesn't matter to me. But I appreciate the people who are lobbying against it, and I'm on board with them, and I'll join the lobby, but not because it affects me, but because I respect their frustration with it for whatever reason, and the fact that, you know, that it could be done better. You know, if they were complaining about something that I think is perfect, I might have a little bit more to say, but they've still got the opportunity to say they don't like it. That's how opinions work. You know, there's no, when I say an opinion, like, the other frustration, going off the point slightly, is when people have to say, in my opinion, after something, as if they're going to be naturally spouting somebody else's opinion. So I try not to say that as much anymore, because I feel like if you have to say, in my opinion anyway, then it's like, well, so you're reminding somebody that you're talking. But yeah, I mean, I remember having an argument with somebody online before about something in a Facebook group. And I said, well, so and so, whatever. And they said something else. And it was back and forth for a while. And then in the end, they were like, oh, well, that's just your opinion. And I'm like, yeah, of course it is. You're talking to me. What else would it be? Of course it's my opinion. I'm saying it. Like,
yeah,
I'm not quoting anybody.
Yeah, I mean, you're the one talking. Of course, it's just your opinion.
But it's just, I don't know. I've never really got that. But anyway, it's like, you know, and I always see like social media in terms of like when they complain about things, and I've made this comparison a few times, is that it's like window shopping. You know, you don't walk down the street and, I don't know, let's say you're you're in the market for a new pair of shoes, and you don't walk down the street and see a suit on a mannequin in a men's clothing shop in the window, and then open the door to that shop and shout in that you think the suit looks awful and that you're not going to buy it. There's no need. There's no need to do that, because nobody cares, for a start, and secondly, what benefit is there to you or them for you shouting in to tell them that you're not interested in their product, you don't like their product, and you're not going to buy it? When you just carry on walking, just keep going till you get to something you do like. I don't understand. There's become this inherent need for people to let everybody else know, because they've got, or what they believe is a platform, let everyone else know that they don't think that is right. And I just think to myself, if I see a Lego set, like, I don't like the helmet sets, and I mention it when I talk, but only ever when I'm talking about, when people ask me, am I going to get this set, or describe, your, like you did at the beginning, describe your Lego collecting. It is part of the description, because I'm trying to tell people that I don't collect everything Lego Star Wars. There are some themes that I don't really care for very much. I don't have to really explain why, because I don't think it's relevant. And I don't like broadcasting it. But I don't go out of my way to say they're terrible sets, I don't like them, because it's like, I just don't buy them. And they're not on my shelves. That's all I need to do to justify not buying them, is not buying them. I don't need to kind of let everybody know. And that's the kind of thing. But again, I say that, and I'm operating on the scale of Instagram and YouTube, where effectively everything I'm doing, i.e. content creating, is essentially look at me. Because what else is it otherwise? That's all there is. It is entertainment value for yourself and the other people to some degree. But essentially everything you're doing is with the expectation or hope that someone else is going to see it. So it is hard to be kind of judgmental on people giving themselves a platform whilst saying it from a platform, So
yeah, and that's why it's always kind of annoyed me when people complain about other people saying, "Oh, you're only doing this for the views." I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, well, of course I am. Otherwise the video would be private. Why else would I? Why else does anyone do anything on the internet if it's not for entertainment or the views?
Yeah, I mean, why do people brush their hair and have their hair cut and wear clothes? In most cases, it's to impress other people. So
yeah. And so Panda says, and I want to highlight this because I've got a stinger response lined up for this. Remember, Kathleen Kennedy said they had no source material to work from when doing Star Wars projects. She doesn't care. And I've got a perfect response lined up. Well, actually, if I can find it. This may or may not describe the way that Kathleen Kennedy operated Star Wars.
I will fuck you up. She's rich. She's famous. She's beautiful. I'm sure she has a staff that looks like Downton Abbey. And it's all fine. It's all just well and good. It's not. It's dangerous. That's the truth. Stand by every word I said. I would like the word spread wide, far and wide.
That is Kathleen Kennedy. And we are glad that she is planning to step down, because hopefully that can reverse the course trajectory of Star Wars. Get some new blood into the executive chairs over there. Because Skeleton Crew had a lot of lost potential because people had fatigue after the Acolyte. Because people were saying that was the best anything Star Wars since the Mandalorian TV series.
No, that's weird for me, because like, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I like everything Star Wars, and if you don't, you're not a true Star Wars fan, because that's just naivety. That's just ignorance.
That's such a straw man apologist argument.
But what I will say is that I genuinely have enjoyed every piece of Star Wars content. Now, if I compare some of the so-called crap Star Wars content, then I can only agree to an extent that, let's just take The Last Jedi, for example. I can only agree that The Last Jedi is a poor movie in comparison to other pieces of content. So as another contrast, I can only surmise that the Kenobi show was weaker. I actually enjoyed it, but it was weaker in comparison to Andor. That sort of came out roughly the same time. And the same can be said with Skeleton Crew and The Acolyte. Came out relatively, close to each other. Acolyte poor, Skeleton Crew better. But it's only in comparison to each other. Now, if I was taking any of those pieces of content, which is the way I view things, any of those pieces of content and comparing them to other content of that nature, then they supersede almost everything. So if I took the Obi-Wan show and compared it to other TV shows at that point, let's use Downton Abbey as an example, and I don't know, Neighbours, to use an Australian reference, and things like that, then to me, well, obviously to me, but it's far superior to that other show, and therefore, and I still enjoyed it. This is the bit that I think people get bogged down in, and they're more than welcome to be bogged down with this. But their judgment for how good a show is always based on the pinnacle of Star Wars, and it can't always be like that. Sometimes otherwise you wouldn't get variety. They should compare it to other forms of entertainment and other TV shows, in my opinion, because that's how I do it. So when I watched the first Star Wars movies, I wasn't comparing those. I didn't love those. I didn't love the original trilogy movies because they were better than any of the Star Wars content, because there was no other Star Wars content. I didn't compare them to each other. I picked my favorite maybe, but I didn't compare them to each other. I just compared them to other sci-fi movies at the time. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., Flight of the Navigator, all great movies, but if I had to choose, I would always choose the Star Wars movies. And then obviously when the prequel trilogy came out, similar kind of thing. There was other science fiction around at that point. For Contact, I can't think of any others off the top of my head. The one with the family that gets lost in space. I think it's actually called Lost in Space. That was out around about the time that the prequel science fiction, enjoyable, but the Star Wars prequels were far superior, so enjoyed them. But again, like I said, everybody's like, well, The Acolyte was crap because, well, it wasn't crap. It wasn't crap. I don't think it was crap, and I don't think other people think it was crap. I just think it was not the best in terms of Lego content, Lego Star Wars content. And I think those are two very different things. I appreciate the people who say I didn't enjoy Book of Boba Fett as much as I enjoyed Andor. That's fine. That sounds right to me, because I would agree. But when they say, but Book of Boba Fett was absolute garbage, it was crap, I'm like, was it though? Because I remember at the time there was lots of really good parts of it that were really enjoyable and really fun and really exciting. But on the whole, compared to other shows, it wasn't good, so therefore it must be crap. It's just that dealing in absolutes that I kind of struggle with. So I kind of stay out of those kind of conversations, if I'm honest. Sorry, to just tangent.
Because I've heard the comparisons between Skeleton Crew and Goonies. I've also heard comparisons between The Book of Boba Fett and Adventures in Babysitting. Because people didn't like the way that they dumbed down Boba Fett because they were heavily promoting Grogu, because Grogu is this generation's version of R2D2. Is what they're trying to do with the small, cute, hip character that they can put on the back of a Wheaties box, like what they used to do with the baseball players.
Yeah, cash grab.
It's all for marketing. General said Solo suffered because of Last Jedi. Skelly Cruz suffered because of Acolyte. Britain says, is it just me, or did anyone else get the Easter egg relevance to SM-33 in the Skeleton Crew? I instantly thought of Captain Hook's first mate, SMEE, as they are pirates. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, there was actually two along the same theme, because they said he had several names, right? Jude Law's character, I forget what the main name was, but in one scene, somebody, I think maybe one of his like female people, I don't know, maybe it was the owl type character. I'm pretty sure that she referred to him as John Silver. So his surname was Silver. And yeah, so like as in Long John Silver. So so there was that reference as well at one point, which I kind of picked up on. But yeah, that I got it straight away, if I'm honest, it's me. But my I was trying to explain to my daughter, but it went over her head. But yeah, I like things like that, little sort of nods, subtle nods to the. I really enjoyed the show. I got to say, I can't think of a piece of Star Wars content that's ever come out that I haven't enjoyed watching, I've wanted to watch again, or have watched again multiple times, even after people have, jumped on it and told it. Like, because I watched The Last Jedi again quite recently. I enjoyed the film. I do enjoy the film. I don't enjoy it as much as other Star Wars, granted, but I enjoy it more than most other sci-fi. So,
because I think one of the things that I hear that I really don't hear a lot of people complaining about, but is actually a really bad part about the film, is that two of the three main characters say hi for the first time at the end of the second part of the trilogy. Like, if you don't know that Rian Johnson had no cohesion with what should have been the plot of the trilogy, that's a pretty good example of him not knowing what he was doing.
Yeah, so you're talking about
criticize Rian Johnson for a lot of things with that movie. There was just a big crack, and now we can't hear you. Britain, thanks for coming out for the first time. It was good. It was good to see your face around here. We're happy that you are now a part of the mayohosko community, and look forward to fostering an even further relationship with you than what I otherwise already have.
Yeah, I'm in the work at 10 a.m.
We're just about to end this stream.
Well, I've just come to the realization that I'm going to work tomorrow, and straight from work, I've got to travel down to my parents' house, and I'm going to see some potential wedding venues with my fiance tomorrow, and I haven't even packed a bag. So not only am I not ready for bed, but I'm not even ready for work, and I'm also not ready for the travel after work. So yeah, no sleep for me for a while.
Yeah. So with all that being said, we're going to be wrapping up this stream in about 15 minutes, so we're going to start winding down today. So it's been great to bring back the one-on-one hangouts. If anyone else out there would like to contact me about doing a one-on-one hangout, we can definitely figure something out in the future after I have interacted with Kulhan for the California wildfires charity stream, and then coming on to his stream Cool Hang Luke Bricks, which you can watch every Sunday. I was like, okay, since we've done all of this stuff together, why not do a hangout stream? And I think it's been rather successful today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been nice to talk about things outside the usual, especially because on our streams we generally have a kind of a topic and all the rest of it. And if we do kind of go off piste, if for want of a better term, then it usually tends to be more along the lines of humorous, funny. Never really get a chance to kind of share my frustrations and, opinions on things without it, descending into too serious. But here I felt like I could do it, because obviously that's something that I'm hosting. But when you're on someone else's show, typically when I've been on other people's shows, it's so kind of not rigid, but so succinct that you kind of try and stay within a barrier. But here I feel like I've been able to kind of let loose a little bit and do a little bit of sort of fury, if you like, and get some opinions across, but only based on the questions that were asked. So thanks for the questions, everybody, because it kind of pushed me in the right direction towards having my say on a couple of things and hearing what you guys could say. It sounds like everybody here is in agreement across the board generally. So, yeah.
Well, I think I've said all of my material that I normally do in these hangout streams. So before we head on out of here, if there's anything you want to talk about, we can talk about it.
What would I like to talk about? There was a topic when you said earlier, if there's anything else you want to talk about, we talk about at the end. I thought, I wonder if this might be a good time to talk about. But I'll just try and fill in that blank myself by saying, does anybody else out there build any other building sets that aren't Lego? I don't really want to.
I know that Fun Hole has swept the Lego Nation.
So, my job is essentially the job that Tom Hanks has in Big, where he plays with toys. But yeah, so I get an opportunity to bring home product from the store to sort of play with, bring it back in. Maybe not necessarily review it like he does in that movie, but in this case, review it for my own channel and then sort of take it back in and use my experience of building it to talk it up to the customer and potentially sell more of it, which we've done. But I've always kind of written them off as a kind of no-go, but I've built these block tech sets and they're actually really, really good. I've enjoyed each one of them. I've built about 7 or 8 now, and they've all been quite good. Generally, they're very similar to botanicals, but that one I just showed you was a crystal one, which they don't do with Lego. But the rest of them are kind of similar to. So this is the orchid, and you can see the whole bunch there in a vase, which I think I've built everyone except for this pink one at the front. But they actually look pretty good on display in the shop. I joke around with customers and tell them that I sort of grew these fresh this morning, and I end up selling a couple to each person. So it's quite a good Mother's Day gift as well, I guess. So which is coming up in the UK. But yeah, just interested. Did anybody else build, or is it like, are you all elitist Lego?
I remember once upon a time, I got some fake Lego, not knowing it was fake. It was fake Lego, and I had fun with it. But then I quickly realized, not all pieces are created equally across all brands.
So the quality of these bricks is actually relatively good. I don't think I'd know it wasn't Lego if I just had it in my hand or I was blindfolded. The only thing I will say about them is that, in terms of a negative, is that they don't. I wouldn't say they don't fit together because that suggests that they don't clip. They do clip, but it's just not as. It's not as smooth and for example, you'll put a piece on like a leaf piece or whatever. With Lego, it'll be like kind of seamless and it'll look like it's meant to be there. But with these sets, sometimes they're just kind of just slightly out. There's like one might be raised slightly more than the other, or there might be like a bit of a gap in between the two bricks that should sit flush. But on the whole, there's not a huge difference. I'd say they're kind of 9, and that's me comparing them to Lego. I'm just suggesting that they're actually a good product in general, even if I'd never heard of Lego. The fact that you can build up some flowers using some little pieces and have some fun doing it, and they look pretty good when they're finished. Lego or no Lego, for the price, it's good fun. So
yeah, because like I have a complex relationship with fake Lego. I'm not against it because I've had both good and bad experiences. One of my good experiences is that Target sells their own brand of bricks, and they sold a 1,000 piece set. They had a bunch of basic black, red, yellow, green, and blue pieces. 1,000 pieces for $10. You had the 1x1s, 1x2s, 1x3s, 1x4s, 1x6s, I think 2x2s, 2x3s, and 2x4s, and it was all for $10 and it was the most impressive Lego experience I've ever had because the clutch power is only marginally stronger than Legos. The colors don't match 100%, but they're close enough, and I use them in my mocks in places where you can't see them, because when we're building mocks, you're not going to see everything, and a lot of the structural integrity of a mock, you're never going to see it either. So there are ways to sneak in fake Lego where people might not otherwise expect.
Yeah, I've seen that, and Duplo as well.
Yeah, Duplo for terraforming big pieces of terrain. So I just put the link for the Cool Han Luke Bricks YouTube channel and the Cool Han Luke Bricks Instagram page in the description. So after this stream, if you want to find him those two places, then you can go and find him there. So we're 7 minutes away from ending the stream. I need to do stuff with the rest of my day. Luke needs to do stuff. Needs to go to bed. And also, I know that some people are confused about your name, but Luke is not your actual name.
No, neither is it Han or Cool.
Yeah,
my actual name is Martin. It's just that I'm a big fan of Paul Newman and the movie Cool Hand Luke. I just saw the opportunity to come up with a catchy kind of name that both had reference to that, was different to anything anyone else had been doing, but also I could make it Star Wars reference by turning the hand into Han and keeping the Luke. So it's Cool Han Luke as a subtle nod to the movie Cool Hand Luke. But if you've never seen the movie Cool Hand Luke, you should definitely go and check it out. It's a great movie.
Yeah, so we'll go over the last bits of the chat and then we'll let the guest plug themselves. So General says, haven't touched off-brand since the Mega Bloks, Dragon, Crystal Wars. I'm not against the idea though. Lego is never a seamless connection with other brands as with itself, but some things can work. So I don't badmouth off-brand, but my preference will always be Lego first. I kind of figured out that connection. Panda says there are a lot of off-brand stuff that has gotten better, and some have exceeded Lego. They have strong competition now. Mega has lost the Pokemon license. Hope they make a matching color for Bulbasaur. Alexandria says, I enjoyed your stream very much. Thank you very much. Don't forget to leave a like on the stream, everybody. And that was everyone. So, Cool Hand Luke Bricks, where can we find you on social media?
Instagram, Cool Hand Luke Bricks. YouTube, Cool Hand Luke Bricks. Both with a HAN instead of hand. And yeah, live shows, 7 p.m. UK time, Sundays, every week. We'll also throw in the odd Cool Hand debates, Cool Hand builds, and most recently, Cool Hand Forum, where we just kind of have an open forum talking about the show. Debates is when we talk about a specific subject, like we did the $1,000 Death Star, and the Cool Hand builds is like a live building stream. But yeah, a couple of shorts here and there, a couple of videos here and there, but generally I think the focus is on the live stream. So come along, we'll look after you in the chat.
Yeah. And I just want to put it out there before I leave. I think a lot of people fell for the bait with my video, Lego live streams dead, because clearly people did not watch until after the intro of that video. I'm gonna call out those people without naming their names. But if you're in the comments, you know who you are. And I'm actually going to make a response video to that probably next week, because a lot of people had some rather strong opinions on that. And it's clear that clearly Lego live streams aren't dead, because Cool Hand Luke Breeks does his stuff. I occasionally do my stuff. I think the answer is pretty obvious. Yeah, so that riled up a few folks. Anyway, I'm going to get back to doing the stuff I normally do. So for those who don't know, I do videos every Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday, Thursday. And I know you don't do regularly scheduled videos, but I know that you do more shorts than videos. And you're also quite prolific with the Instagram reels too. Did we just get asleep? Because if we did, I think we have a graphic for that.
How the hell is it live if nothing's on? Well, that's funny. It is too. Supposed to be at work. That's funny. Peace. That's what happens when you peace out and forget it on. Yeah, I must have just peaced out, wandered off last night. Epic. Cheers.
I'm just going to spitball until the end.
And I'm the terrible person. Well, that came out wrong. There's a clip somebody can use.
Unburdened by what has been.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You've got to be kidding me.
We're letting you go.
Oh, please don't do this. I'm begging you. Just give me one more chance.
Okay, fine. All right, that's it. You're fired.
And with that bombshell, this has been an awesome stream. Thank you, everyone in the comments. Good night, everybody.